So my name is Henry Pinchbeck. I'm the CEO of 3D LifePrints, and unlike many of the people here, I'm actually not a healthcare professional. I'm a lawyer. Don't hold it against me. And I'm the CEO of this medical 3D printing company. And as other people have said, we're here to talk to you about innovation within the NHS. And we've had some really big companies come up and talk to you. Well, I run quite a small company. We currently have 3 embedded 3D printing facilities in hospitals. We've one up in Alder Hey, we've one in Royal Liverpool, and we've also got one in the Nuffield Orthopaedic Centre, and hoping to open up another couple this year. So we're quite a small company, but it's going to give you a different aspect of, and how innovation kind of works through the NHS. So what I want to describe to you first is to describe kind of what it is that we do. What is medical 3D printing, and how is that different from 3D printing? I'm not going to talk to you about 3D printing, but I hope you understand a bit about that. And like any good lawyer, what I try to do is I try to define something, and especially something new. So medical 3D printing for me is 3D printing that starts with its source data with the patient. So, and when you boil that down, that means what we're doing is we've got personalized medical manufacturing, as it says here. So you're making something bespoke for the clinician to aid them with their care of the patient. And when I looked at this business opportunity, really, as it came to me, a bit like it came to the previous speaker, I saw that what was happening in the marketplace was people were doing this in 2 different ways. So either some big medical companies, of which you're all very well aware of, such as Stryker or Materialise, they provided medical 3D printing just a bit like anyone else did normal manufacturing. They would pick up some data from a hospital, they'd take it over to their factory in, well, for Stryker it's in Ireland, and then they'd send it back to the hospital. And I didn't really think that was right. And then on the other side, sometimes some hospitals are carrying out this process themselves, where they'd build up their own capacity, they'd buy some kit, they'd buy some software, they'd hire some people, and basically the hospital would try and run this business from within the hospital. And again, I don't think that's right either. So what I've done is I've set up a company that brings the commercial elements of this and stuck it inside a hospital. So I run embedded commercial 3D printing facilities within hospitals. We call them hubs. And so I'm now up to making our 4th and 5th and 6th hub. And the reasons for this are reasonably obvious because of the fact of what 3D printing is and what it can do. But one of the main things it does that you don't think of straight away, and this is about innovation. We have brought a load of technology up to the kind of the coal face of medicine. And so on surgeons' tea breaks, or at 5 o'clock, or whenever they get off their shift, they come down to our facility and they talk about things. They talk about what they'd like to do, what they'd like to make. They talk about how we'd like to change the way that we do things, and they come to us with their problems. They don't really bring solutions, or they don't really know what they want sometimes, but using our kit, we can actually just make things for them, prototype for them, change the way that their immediate healthcare is being delivered. And so innovation is like the main driver of our business. We change the way that we work every day. The second really good reason to bring these kind of facilities up to the hospital is the access to the data. Now, obviously, the data is the patient data, so I've got to be very careful about what I do with that data, and I think maybe we'll talk about that in a bit. But if I'm in the hospital, not only am I close to it, I can get ready access to it, but also the hospital can monitor me, which I'm perfectly happy for them to do. In fact, I try and encourage the hospital to be as tight as possible with the data, make sure it's anonymized, make sure when I get it, there's nothing untoward can happen with it. That helps me out, not the other way around. And the last thing that really helps in these kind of scenarios is, well, 3D printing is, if you think about it, it's just a machine. It's just a machine, but it's a machine that makes one-off things. And so why would you go and put a machine that makes one-off things in a factory? You may as well get any other machine. So breaking the logistics chain, moving these machines as close as possible to our clients, who are the surgeons and clinicians, that makes a lot of sense. So now I've told you about what it is that we do, I'll tell you about some of the things that we make. Now the most simple one, as you can see up there, there's a picture of an anatomical model at, I'll get this wrong and I'll be really embarrassed. There's a femur and a acetabula, I hope. Now, again, I'm not medically qualified, so it's not my job to do this. I employ lots of people who are. And this is the most simple way of producing things, is what we've done is a copy. We have a copy of the patient's anatomy, and then we've 3D printed it in a variety of materials that are suitable for the job, and we give it to the surgeon for a variety of reasons. It could be to plan the surgery, it could be to communicate with the patient, it could be for a bit of training, it could be for all sorts of different things. And we encourage the surgeons to try and use it for lots of different things. It helps us. And I'll give you another quick example. The second example I've put there is models for device sizing. And we've got an interesting project on with the Liverpool Heart and Chest Hospital at the moment, where we are creating cardiac models for patients who've got atrial septal defects. Now, we'll print out a model for the cardiologist and for the surgeon. They will then simulate the placement of their closure device on our model prior to going into surgery. Now, our models are reasonably cheap. They're made of plastics. They retail around sort of 300 to 600 to 700 pounds, that kind of thing. They're not a crazy expensive, whereas the closure devices are really, really expensive. There's a lot here about risk and getting things right the first time, which I know is a big thing within the NHS. As we go down the list, we get into slightly more exciting things. Orthopedic cutting guides. Again, these are a kind of translational device where a surgical plan is turned into a real physical jig that's bespoke to that patient. We make a lot of these for orthopedic surgeons, but they're not as popular in the UK as they are in the States. One of the reasons, I think, is because of price and lack of access to them in the right kind of time frames. We now think we can turn things around in 24 hours to some of our, in some of our embedded hubs. That's just not possible when you've got people a long way away. Bespoke tools, obviously this is now happening as well. There's some great uses of people making bespoke tools within surgery. And lastly, implants. Now, 3D printed implants are here. There's lots of companies making them. Not lots, 2 or 3 companies making them in the UK. Stryker's one of them. And that will continue to be a massive market. But my point is I still think they're doing it wrong. They're still making them in a factory out in Ireland. I think you should be doing at least a part of the job. Maybe it's only the design job up against the hospital so the clinician can be involved with it. I'll just move us on a little bit to the generic things that we do. So I said most of the stuff we do comes from patient data. A lot of the stuff we do doesn't come from patient data as well. And we have a generic tool for a surgeon for training, for example. I was shocked when I saw some of the tools and some of the training tools that surgeons use, clinicians use. We can make some really high fidelity things now bespokely for that person. So using the same kit, using the same software, the design skills we have, we make a lot of training models for people. And also back to what I said about prototyping, every doctor does have a little black book, really, even if it's in their head, about ideas and what they want to do. We can help them do that. They come down with the idea, we'll prototype it for them, they'll get that off the ground. We're not going to say we're going to commercialize it for them, but at least we can get it off the ground for them and move it on to the next stage. So those are the 2 areas we work in. If I can just give you 1 minute more about how the process works, I won't bore you with it for too long, but we pick up CT and MRI data. We also now take up ultrasound data we can use as well. Then there's a process of segmenting, we call it, segmenting that data, which is a lot of kind of what radiologists do, really, and then finding the part of it that the surgeon's interested in. And because we're sitting next to the surgeon, they can be involved with the process as much as they want to be. And some surgeons, that's just signing it off at the end because of the regulations. I do need a surgical sign-off. We don't make clinical decisions. We just facilitate the clinician making the decisions. And so once we've done that process, we're then into the other pieces of software that allow us to go and print these digital models into physical models. So I've put up a kind of a slide here showing quite a lot of the various uses for us. I'm not going to take you through them all. I'd point out perhaps the oncology slide at the top there. That's a orthopedic cutting guide for a patient with some cancer of the ankle. Prosthetics and orthotics is also an amazingly large area for medical 3D printing. To have a bespoke orthotic on site, available immediately in the correct skin tone, in the right material, is a huge area. That will become standard over the next period of time. Similarly, facial prosthetics are another area where this kind of technology should take hold really well. I've also put up some examples of some of our simulation models. As you can see there, we've got ones that are soft tissue, so for hearts and brains and what have you, and similarly for bone models as well. The last thing I'm going to put up is, because I knew there'd be lots of people here who aren't surgeons, and obviously we work in surgeons in hospitals a lot, but also for the people who are more general practitioners, we do a lot of this kind of stuff as well. The rapid prototyping, which is kind of standardized 3D printing rather than medical 3D printing, making things, we're experts in that. So if you do have any interesting projects, you'd like to get in touch with me, please take a note down of my details. We'd love to get involved with one of your projects, and would love to jump to a hospital near you as well. Okay. Thanks ever so much. That's all for me.